Subscribers of NewOrleans.Football are getting our breakdown of the third OTA right now. And if you're listening to this on a delay, you're missing out. So you should be signed up for the site. Make sure you do that today. Use the code NOF, save 20% off your first payment. NewOrleans.Football/subscribe. You'll get all of our coverage, our news, our analysis, our breakdowns, our podcast, our extra videos, everything we do. It's all right there. So make sure you are signed up for the best Saints experience that you can find. All right, welcome back to another episode of NewOrleans.Football presented by PJ's Coffee. We're coming to you from our studio next door to my guy, Matt Bowers, on Veterans Memorial Boulevard. If you need a new car, make sure you go check him out at one of his mini dealerships throughout the region. One thing you're going to find at all of them, great pricing, great customer service, a great car buying experience. So make sure you check him out for your new or pre-owned car needs. We're going to break down everything that happened in the OTA. So stick around after this quick word from our great sponsors, and we'll get right to that. The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. This Father's Day, show your dad you appreciate his unique style with the Breitling watch from Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Make sure you're ready for the day. Father's Day is June 16th. And if not, maybe you just want to treat yourself. Smash that presentation, nail that deal, achieve that goal. Get yourself a Breitling watch from Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, 7713 Maple Street, between Adams and Burdett, Uptown. 504-866-5433. Or visit them at friendandcompany.com. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. Their agents are born and raised in the area and understand our community's unique needs and the homeowners insurance crisis our residents are currently in. At Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. They know your time is valuable, which is why they work diligently to provide you with the quotes as soon as possible. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. When we couldn't find someone to insure our house because of the big oak tree growing over top, Chabert worked until they found someone that would work with us and give us the protection that we need to feel safe in our new home. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Chabert. That's 504-326-6526. Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. All right, let's get into the show. Just a quick programming note before we get into it. Next week, we're going to be recording on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday after the minicamp practices live for NewOrleans.Football subscribers. Everybody else is going to have to wait a day to get that access, so make sure you're signed up. Use the code NOF, 20% off your first payment at NewOrleans.Football/subscribe. I'm Nick Underhill here with Mike Triplett and Brandon Thomas, and it's time for the lead presented by Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers is the official jewelers of the New Orleans Saints, and it should be your official home for Father's Day. Make sure you go there and get your dad a new Breitling watch, get yourself one, treat yourself, and maybe treat your special lady too with the Florida Lead necklace and earrings that you now see on your screen. The earrings are priced at $1,100 and the necklace is $1,350.
Lead topic, Saints OTAs week 3. We hyper-focused on DA and Klint Kubiak. This week, the Saints were back on the practice field for OTA 3. Of course, NewOrleans.Football was covering every angle of it. And even more uniquely this time, Nick and I just spent the whole practice focusing on one person. And he focused on DA and I focused on Klint Kubiak. You'll have to hit NewOrleans.Football to really go through the minute-by-minute breakdown of how they interact in practice and what are some of the things that they do. But overall, they were just doing themselves and we were there watching. So, Nick, what did you see about DA? What stood out?
Yeah, I think the thing that stood out to me about DA is, man, just kind of like watching him coach and everything. I mean, he's in the details. He's in it. He's making a lot of corrections. He's got his eye on everything. And then when it's time to lock in on the defense, he really locks in on the defense. And, you know, it was interesting to watch him not just coach players, but coach coaches too. And I think one of the things that he does really well is, you know, obviously he inherited that offensive staff, but over the years, he's done a really great job of developing his defensive coaches. You see the same level of care and detail on the other side, him going over and, you know, showing, you know, how to do something, him finding out why they're doing something. Like all that stuff is incredibly detailed. I'm not going to give it all away. In the story, there was kind of like one thing about where he just kind of started like, hey, if you see this formation, this is what's going to happen. And it was just like, damn, like that's like really, really insightful stuff. I mean, just kind of locking in on him, watching him, it gave me a greater appreciation for how he goes about his business.
And I think that's the real key about this thing. You end up with a greater appreciation because we watched every single minute from when we went out there from stretches until they did the final thing in team. And I really got a greater appreciation for Kubiak. We always talk about his attention to detail and stuff like that, but he's not just talking it, he's walking it. He was out there playing receiver, playing linebacker, in a 2-point stance, you know what I mean? Trying to give the running backs an accurate look, and he really just puts himself out there. Another thing that really stood out to me is he has a very keen eye for detail, but not just in terms of like watching it. He'll bring you back and say, I want it like this, I want it like that. Not giving away everything, but like he pulled Rashid like, hey, when you get in your break, like really like jam your foot and then cut back and stuff like that. And also, I mean, he's with every position group. Now, granted, he had a little help with that because he was talking to Taysom Hill. When you talk to Taysom Hill,
Taysom Hill's with every position
when you
group.
talk to Taysom Hill, you're talking to like 3 position groups at one time. But Kubiak is really he's really doing it. He's really doing even talking with like the players in the locker room and stuff. They're taking very well to him.
It's just such an educational idea. There wasn't a lot that shocked me when I read your accounts, except for it's just eye-opening, especially to do it with a coach like Dennis Allen that so many people have these preconceived notions on, that like either he's in over his head or he's not meant to be a head coach or whatever. It's like, here's what he did for, you know, nearly 2 hours straight today, and, you know, he knows what he's like, you know what I mean? The choreography of it almost, as you pointed out, was one thing that stood to me. Like, he had every position group at one point, but then also when he got into team drills, he was locked in, calling the defensive plays still and everything like that. So it's just something you don't think, like, I mean, it would have been an interesting exercise with Sean Payton in his prime, but it's also a really interesting exercise for a guy that I think would help people who want to know what DA's doing. You see what he's doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, look, to just answer your one comment, like the man won 9 games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
like I don't know, he won 9 games in the NFL. Like he's you know, there's worse. There's a lot worse.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Nah, but definitely the minute by minute account, you should definitely check NewOrleans.Football because it gives you a greater appreciation of what Dennis Allen is doing. And, you know, I'm not going to say it like I'm not biased, but you're not getting that anywhere else. So make sure that you're subscribed, NewOrleans.Football/subscribe. Moving on to our next segment presented by Shybear Insurance. For the rest of practice, Mike, you had it covered. You had your observations that you put on the website, but you were literally watching everything else that was happening on the field. What stood out today?
You know, it's funny. I said the other day what I wanted to watch during the second OTA practice. I said I want to watch more Isaiah Foskey and Peyton Turner. But as it turned out, since I was trying to keep the heavy lifting with the observations, I was watching every play because I was charting every play and what happened on all of them. And Isaiah Foskey made himself noticed regardless. Like he got some snaps with the ones, and he got and you know, he was heavy on the pressure when Derek Carr threw the first interception that we've seen of OTAs. Started with a batted pass at the line of scrimmage. We think it was Kendall Vickers. Got NOF correspondent Demario Davis to go fact check that for me in the locker room. He believed it was Kendall Vickers on the first tip, and then Alontae Taylor on the second tip, and then Demario Davis ultimately intercepted it. But Foskey was in on the pressure on that. There was another time where he had him dead to rights for a sack. There was another time earlier in practice where he was bringing the pressure, and either him or the guy next to him batted a pass down. Just a really good practice for Foskey, and he was in Nick's observations in week 2 as well. So way too early to say that means anything, but just really promising. That's one of the players we want to be hearing positive things about this week. The other one that I talked about in the dot video and in my observations, speaking of sophomores who need to get their career going the right way, Lou Hedley killed it today. I'm telling you, that was like It was like a highlight video. His 13 punts in practice were like a compilation of his 13 best punts from a season. Two sophomores who are on the way up. There's some other highlights in there as well. I actually think on this day, I think Spencer Rattler got the better of Jake Haener. So we saw 2 straight practices where Haener looked better than Rattler, and we kind of like came up with an opinion. Well, now it's 2-1. So that's going to be a battle that goes all the way into camp.
One thing that kind of stands out to me a little bit right now, I think if we had to make a running back depth chart for a game to be played next Sunday, I think obviously you can't, Alvin's not there, but we know Alvin's number 1. I think number 2's Jamal right now, and I think number 3's Kendra Miller. And it looks like that's kind of the way it's been going steadily throughout it. Now, they might be making Kendra earn it or whatever, but it seems to me visually, watching practice and watching how people are being used, it seems to me that Jamal's running ahead of him a little bit right now. So that's been my main takeaway, and I've been kind of waiting on that one through like 3 practices. It kind of feels like Jamal's ahead of him right now.
That doesn't hugely surprise me in that we've seen that over the years where like the rookie has to usurp the veteran. I mean, it reminds me of...
He's not a rookie, though.
No, I know, exactly.
And we're talking about a guy that had 100 yards, and we're talking about a new coaching staff.
Right, that's true. That's true. Doesn't hugely surprise me that that's how it starts out, but if Jamal is able to hold on to that, I mean, again, we've used this analogy a lot. Like, we all thought, I bet they want to see Alontae Taylor beat out Paulson Adebo, and it's like, you still got to do it first. Yeah.
Does it seem like Jamal altered his body any? Like, he seemed a little bit lighter on his feet, to me at least, during those drills today.
I thought he looked good in practices last year. I was excited about him last year, going through it. And then I just think that he had a weird season too. Like I think he drastically underwhelmed. There's no doubt about it. He underwhelmed. He did not live up to expectations. I was kind of expecting him to be like buried coming into this season just based on how we saw it last year. And then like you kind of start thinking about it a little bit, and it's like if Taysom hadn't vultured a lot of the touches at the goal line, like is our opinion different? You know, he didn't get a lot of goal line touches. A lot of those went to Taysom. If he ends up with more touchdowns, like do we kind of look at him like, okay, like maybe the overall yardage wasn't there, maybe the receiving game stuff wasn't there, maybe that's offensive system, but like he was still valuable in this one aspect, and then he just kind of didn't, get those touches. So I think there's a couple, and I don't think they blocked great last year either in the run game. So, there's a couple things there, but it's interesting to me though. But like I do think if they played this weekend, like it does kind of look like Kendra's at the bottom, and like there's a lot of time to go, a lot of stuff that can change. Yeah. It could just be that Jamal's been in various offensive systems. Maybe he's hitting the ground running, and Kendra's kind of picking it up as they go. But like it does really, it really looks and feels that way.
And look, I think the coaching staff is higher on Jamal Williams than us too, because one of the big takeaways at the end of last season after that, like get him the touchdown and all his teammates did that for him, is that they basically converted him to a fullback last year and made him do a lot of blocking and a lot of things that aren't as glamorous as well. But that probably still got him, favorable look from the coaches. But you did get one thing wrong about the depth chart. Jamal Williams, it's Alvin, Jamal Williams, and Kendra are 2, 3, and 4. Taysom Hill is running back number 1. I mean, I say that as a joke, but this was a heavy running day.
Yeah.
And
he was getting one snaps.
The lead tailback. Yeah. When they have one guy back there. Right. And then he's out there again, taking a toss to the left, taking a toss to the right, sometimes behind a fullback. And then he's the fullback with the running back with Jamal Williams behind him, I think, on that play. Or I can't remember for sure when he was lined up at the fullback, who the tailback was behind him. Might have been Kendra. But honestly, if we're just charting it based on the snaps that we've seen so far, I mean, it feels like they really want to feature Taysom. I mean, they're not just tinkering. They're going to feature Taysom Hill in this offense.
Yeah. Who went down today? I know, Derek Carr, he wasn't.
Carr threw an interception. He didn't have a bad day overall. He did throw touchdown passes to Chris Olave, who continues to look great. Even though he wore a red non-cocked out jersey, it sounds like it's a very minor thing they were protecting. Michael Jacobson.
He still practiced too. A lot of still practice on top of that.
Fully practiced. Michael Jacobson caught a touchdown pass from Derek Carr, the tight end Nick's been touting. It's hard to ignore that. Like I said, I thought Haener had some bumps, but it was a very small sample size. No quarterback had more than 4 throws in full team drills. We also saw 7-on-7. But the guy who unfortunately had the toughest, most obvious tough day of anyone was Charlie Smith, the kicker. We saw him showing off his big leg the other day. This is the second time we've seen him kick now. And he missed at least 3 and 1 that, from our vantage point, we couldn't tell out of 7 attempts. He was missing way left, tried to overcorrect right, missed right. And it was a windy day, and he really struggled with that. So a definite reminder that he's a work in progress. And look, it was a big day for both of the sophomore kickers. Groupie had the day off, but it's like, oh yeah, he's the reliable veteran. The other guy's working through some kinks, and Headley looks like a guy who's taking the next step as well. So those guys are going to be harder to beat out than pretending like those are wide open competitions, I think.
Yeah, I feel like cars look pretty good through all of these so far. I'm reluctant to say this, but like my truth right now, like, and I'm someone that'll change my opinion with more information. So I'm never marrying to a take, and if you want to try to marry me to a take, like, good luck. I'm going to change it if I see something that changes my mind. I'm not someone that's just like digs in. I think that's a stupid way to talk about anything.
Yeah.
But the process of going through this, evaluating it as you go, and next week's going to put the proof in the pudding a little bit on how we feel globally going into the little break before training camp. But I genuinely feel right now in this moment that like I feel like we're watching a better football team than the one last year. I really do, and I think they're doing everything. Everything looks better. Everything feels better. I have some concerns about various spots. I think it's tough to gauge the defensive line. It's tough to gauge the offensive line, all that stuff. So there's a lot to go through that right now. So, but I mean, genuinely right now, I feel good about what we've seen to this point.
I mean, not to put words in your mouth, I think that's very offensive driven. I mean, we are watching team drills that have not yet included Cam Jordan, Nathan Shepard, Brian Brzee, Chase Young, Marshawn Lattimore, usually not Paulson Adebo. So we assume the defense will pick up where it left off, but it's impossible not to think this offense is going to be better.
Well, I mean, the defense is where I have my concerns. I have no idea if defensive tackle is an okay position or not, because we haven't seen two guys out there. I don't know how to feel about the edge rushers. But it feels. And one of the things that's making me say that, and is beyond the football, like it's the buy-in you're seeing from different people. Like Demario Davis, like it feels like he's putting this thing on his, like he's loud, he's vocal.
It's a good point.
He was going in.
He was kind of the opposite last year.
Yeah, he was going in on the linebackers today about this isn't how we practice. How we practice. Our standard. Da 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 da. Like seeing leaders like that kind of step up, like. I think that's incredibly important, and I think that's what kind of led to some of the turnaround last year. Is those guys kind of putting it on their back, and then when they did, you kind of saw it change a little bit. You get people bought in from day one. You get a better offensive staff. You get your leaders kind of leading the way like that. Mm-hmm. I think it adds up to that part of it. Like that matters, and I think that's there. That's part of what's kind of giving me that feel a little bit.
Two things to say. First of all, Demario Davis killed it in practice today. He's the one who had the interception. Also broke up Derek Carr's first pass of 11-on-11 drills, and he's been out there every day flying around. You like to see that from your veterans. But the other thing, DA said something after practice when somebody was asking him, kind of making the comparison about how that when the Saints turned things around in 2009, they brought in Greg Williams and resurgent defense, and now they've gone through some mediocre years, and they're bringing in Klint Kubiak, overhauling the offense, and there was some joking about how their personalities are so different. But Dennis Allen said, what's the same, though, is Greg Williams and Klint Kubiak, or that defensive staff, this offensive staff, they knew what they wanted to be, they knew their direction, and they knew what they wanted this team to be. There is no question that is something we are seeing, we're hearing every day with every interview from every coach and every player is they have a very defined plan for how they're going to fix this offense and a very detailed one, and we're watching it be put into action, and that does rub off. That's noticeable.
Definitely.
Yeah, one of the things too that DA didn't say, but like another parallel you could easily draw to that is when he took over as defensive coordinator.
He didn't mention that, but he was thinking it.
It's the same. It's the same parallel. Sean was kind of mired in mediocrity. DA takes over as DC. Kind of puts in more discipline, accountability, standards, a clear system, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then, lo and behold, ta-da! They're Super Bowl contender. I don't know that Kubiak's going to do the same thing, but I think that there's a realistic chance that culture change on that side of the ball, lifting it, the accountability, all that stuff, it takes it to better heights. So I like where they're at just relative to last year. I think it'd be disingenuous to sit here and say that it doesn't look and feel different.
It feels different.
Better.
It
feels
definitely
better. It
feels
looks better.
different.
Yeah.
Definitely feels different. It wouldn't be an OTA show if we didn't talk about the offensive line. What do we see from them today?
It's tough. I mean, the defense won practice. There was a lot of run plays today, and they're not wearing full pads, so they're not breaking the run plays, but they're also not going 100% full speed. But it was a bad day for pass protection in general. Like I said, Derek Carr only threw 4 passes in full team drills, but constant pressure, I think, with the first string and the second string units. Bosky was getting pressure on the left side. I would have to see a replay to say for sure if he was beating Trevor Penning on those 2 when he was with the first team where he did that. But multiple batted passes today. And this was with the third string. The last 2 plays of full team drills was Spencer Rattler not even being able to get off a pass. He had to tuck it, and they whistled to play dead. Like, he was under so much pressure. He couldn't, usually that would have been a sack, but then they throw it anyway. He couldn't even get the pass off on his last 2 throws.
Yeah, boy, the defense was hooting and hollering when they had him just rolling out like
2
that.
2 sacks on that play. 2 sacks on that play. You got sacked twice.
Yeah, for sure. But let's talk about who wasn't out there, and that'll lead us into the next segment presented by Hard High Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. DA, he had some updates today on people that we didn't see out there, and kind of an update on what Chris was dealing with. So kind of let's get into what's the timetable for Lattimore, Kamara, Kool-Aid McKinstry, he signed. So what's the update on them?
Well, I mean, DA kind of, I don't know, I guess you could take it both ways. He kind of, I felt like was laying down the law a little bit. Like, yeah, I expect everybody to be there at mandatory minicamp. It's mandatory, so they better be there. But it's also just kind of like, yeah, I'm not, there's no excuses. Like, everybody's got to be here. So whatever you got going on, like, time to put that away and show up and do your job. And, that's kind of been his approach with the whole thing this whole time. I mean, even going into last year, I mean, it was kind of still like that hard line. And I know, people like to have that accountability factor until it's somebody they don't want to, that they don't want to be, it's uncomfortable for certain people to be held accountable. But I mean, look, it's how it's got to be. Like, they got to show up, they got to be here. It's got to be time to go.
Yeah, Chase Young was another guy we haven't seen because of injury. Really interesting update on him, though. He said he's been here every day. He's in on every meeting. He's working in the training room while we're watching guys out at practice, which is why we haven't seen him before. Obviously, coming off that neck surgery, he wasn't expected to participate until training camp. But he backed up the same thing that both he and Mickey Loomis said before OTA started with, which is that they just see a highly, highly motivated player. They're really impressed, I think, by his approach and his attitude, which is a great sign from a guy that you really are. I didn't have any preconceived notions about Chase Young's buy-in, but I know that the people who nitpick his film analysis and stuff would talk about taking plays off or whatever. It sounds like they have not only no questions about his approach and his attitude, but they speak of it in, they're not just saying those words. You can kind of tell by the inflection of their voice and everything. They're really excited about what that guy might bring to this team.
I mean, the thing with Chase Young too is that he desperately needs to have a good season. Like, he's on a 1-year deal, and he needs to prove to everybody that he's healthy and he can do all these things, because then there's a mega contract at the end of that if he proves all that stuff. So whatever, like, anybody, it doesn't matter at this point, because like he's on a 1 year, so it's on him. It's on him more than anybody else. If this thing goes, splat on the Saints, so what? Like, it's a very small amount of money. Like, it's not crippling for them any type of way. So there's more pressure on Chase Young to get something out of this than there is for the Saints to get something out of Chase Young.
You also asked about Kool-Aid McKinstry. I know we talked to him, but DA mentioned, we could see him in individual drills and walkthroughs during minicamp. Obviously, definitely on pace to be kind of fully participating in training camp.
Yeah, B, you talked to him today. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I talked to him one-on-one before the scrum had started, and he sounded like he's itching. He sounded like he's itching to get out there. He's still recovering from his foot injury, but I had asked him straight up, like, hey, man, you got a competition coming on. He was like, that's what training camp is for. That's what it's for, to be able to go out there and make things happen. He said he could play anywhere. And even Marcus Robertson, after practice, he was saying how, like, we won't be able to really tell until he's on the grass, but X's and O's wise, man is locked in. Man is locked in for real. And, I mean, that's a testament to him and the work he's put in, being able to play early at Alabama and then going through that Nick Saban system. So I think the Saints got one of them ones. I think the Saints got one of them ones wherever they end up putting them at. Of course, there's going to be growing pains and stuff like that, but I think just with the humbleness kind of what he brings to it, he doesn't talk too much about, oh, I'm going to go out there and do this, and this. He's just like, hey, I just need to finish recovering, and when I get out there, I'm going to do what I need to do because I could do it anywhere. So very interested to see how that checks out. And, if you want to see it, be sure you're locked into NewOrleans.Football because we'll have it wall to wall. When we come back, we'll have an in-depth analysis of what Chris Olave said today after practice, and we'll get into the Martin's question of the day. Keep it locked to NewOrleans.Football.
Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana. They were founded in 1980 and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. And Total Maintenance wants to show some love to our NOF listeners. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. It will never increase. Total Maintenance has a tune-up special running this summer for $79, down from the normal price of $179. This is a one-time offer for one system only. They also offer a free diagnostic on second opinions on units deemed to be unrepairable, and they offer free estimates for replacements as well as commercial maintenance programs. Services include AC and heating service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000.
Are you tired of renting and ready to own your dream home? Contact Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union, your trusted source for home loans. Our competitive rates and flexible terms can help make your home ownership dreams a reality. If you're a first-time home buyer or looking to refinance, our experienced lenders are here to help. Our online application process allows you to apply on your schedule. It's quick, easy, and convenient. Visit us online at jeffersonfinancial.org to learn more. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and much, much more. They are family owned and operated since 1946 and specialize in wine, spirits, gourmet food, gift baskets, catering, and tasting events. They have many locations, so they're never too far away. You can check them out in Metairie, New Orleans, Mandeville, and Baton Rouge, or if it's more convenient, you can always shop online. Whether you're a wine novice or a seasoned collector, you'll enjoy the Martin Wine and Spirit experience.
Welcome back to our studio on Veterans Memorial Boulevard. It is now time for the money segment presented by Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union. Today, we got a chance to talk to Chris Olave for the first time this offseason. He had a touchdown catch today, but during practice, he was wearing a non-contact red jersey, custom made with the 12 on the back. I really liked it, to be honest with you. But he
What?
Hey, man, that thing was clean, bro. I'm used to seeing it with like a quarterback number just drop back, but he
12 is a quarterback number.
You're not hearing what I'm saying. In motion, going on there, snagging it, doing the thing. You know what I mean? But nevertheless, Chris Olave, we got to talk to him for the first time today. Do we think he'll be able to make a big splash this season and add more touchdowns to his resume?
Well, one thing about him, before they signed Keith Williams, one of the things I heard is that Keith reached out Chris to kind of see where Chris was at with the idea of him coming into this system. He had recruited him at one point, and the Olave family is from San Diego. Keith has ties out in San Diego, so they were kind of able to back channel a call, and then they talked to kind of see where they were at, and it was just kind of like, hey, Chris, this is what I see. This is what it's going to be. This is what I need you to do. You do this, this, and this. You're going to get to the next level. And it was kind of like, I'm going to come in and tell you what you don't want to hear, but I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And Chris was all in on it. And he said it again today. Like, he thinks that Keith can kind of push him and take him to the next level. And, Chris was wide open and honest about last year kind of mentally not being checked in the right way. And we all know what happened there. There was that stretch in the middle of the season. Him and Derek weren't getting along. There was the being placed under arrest for speeding. But, like, all that stuff kind of kind of put him in a negative headspace, and he had to work his way out of it. And we did see him work his way out of it. But, I think him just being a little bit more,
He's healthy
a
too.
little bit more calloused to
Yeah.
some of this stuff mentally. Like I think is going to help him get to that level. Yeah, and being healthy is another one. So, I like where he's at. I like where he's at. I like the stuff that he's saying. I mean, obviously, talent's not an issue for him. Production isn't an issue for him. It's just kind of how much better can he actually get. And I think there's room for improvement for sure.
Well, you say production's not an issue for him. One of the things Brandon just asked is he getting in the end zone this year? That's kind of the one thing he hasn't produced so far. And it's funny because this is the second camp in a row where it looks like if you watch OTAs, just 3 OTAs so far, if you watch training camp last year, you'll be like, oh, they must throw to him 18 times in the end zone, in a season. That's what it feels like. That's what they did. They had their first red zone drill that we saw in all of OTAs, and the first pass thrown in the end zone was to Chris Olave, who got open. It wasn't a contested catch necessarily. It was a really nice route on a play action pass, and he got open behind Alante Taylor. But it's just like, I don't see why he can't be a red zone threat. I mean, obviously he needs to get bigger and stronger. We've talked about that. It's something he's worked on each of the last 2 years. But I think a lot of that's going to come through offensive design. But, I mean, when you look at this team, there's no reason he should not be the alpha.
What's the number? Like, what's the number of touchdowns?
I mean, I don't know why he shouldn't be able to get 10. What has he had, 4 and 5 in his first 2 years? So I would take the under on 10, but I mean, it's not like Rashid Shaheed is a red zone threat. It's not like Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau and Cedric Wilson are going to just be eating up touchdowns. It's not like they're all going to go to Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara. Like, I see no reason why you don't test a team more than the Saints have tested with Chris Olave in the red zone. A.T. Perry I should mention too, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he'll get to 10, but I don't see why he shouldn't get to 10.
10's fourth in the league. You know what I mean? If you got to like 7, I think that'd be like a really good number. Like
Yeah.
7 kind
10
of for
is
his
fourth
build.
in the league?
Yeah, like St. Brown, I think had 10 last year.
That's
like,
funny. I was just
yeah.
looking up St. Brown because that's who I think he could be.
Yeah.
St. Brown's 6'2". Like he could be that. In
St.
theory.
Brown's a little bit more physical though, right?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
A little more mass.
Like Puka had 6, I think, last year. Like it's just
Yeah,
kind of,
all right.
you know, if you got to like 7 or 8, I think that's great. I think that'd be like
Yeah.
for his build
Yeah.
because like he's not he's not like the Mike Thomas type of player.
And Thomas rarely got to 10
but
too.
but you would think like there'd be some more explosives in that too, just to kind of like pop
Yeah.
that number up a little bit. So like there should be some red zone, and then you would think that there'd be some. I don't know, with how fast he is, like it feels like he should be able to house a slant like once a season.
Yeah,
And
he'll fly.
You should have a couple deep, throws. Like I think if you could add 2 or 3 on top of whatever happened last year, and I think you can get to that level. But like it just feels like there should be like more variety with him, and I think that variety is really the thing.
No
And then I think it doesn't feel as I think it just feels like more robust if you can get like 2 or 3 of those like extra plays in there, and they should exist. They should exist in some form or fashion. He's way too fast, way too athletic, way too explosive to not feel like an explosive big play. Oh man, you got to watch Olave. He's gonna like they just. I don't think they did enough to kind of capitalize on that.
No, I definitely think there was some crumbs left on the table last year in terms of touchdowns with
No
him. Like
question.
it was that Monday night game against Carolina. He had one. He had like a real good one, but I think he stepped out like going down the sideline, so they had to bring it back. And then in LA, I think he had another one out of the back of the end zone, and they didn't count it because he stepped out. So I think if he just takes the discipline and stuff that Keith Williams is implementing into the system and applies it, and also he's the guy. He's not like the guy just because Michael Thomas is hurt. He's just straight up the guy this year. So he has that, he's a
They're
big
gonna
fish.
design it around him for sure.
He's going to be designed around him. And with just, we can't talk enough about Kubiak and the way he's putting his system in. I think it's going to be very much built for Chris to succeed in this system. It's now time for our Martin's question of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrels like bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's, so much more than just wine. Today's question comes from Joe. He asks, who benefits most from being in the Kubiak system?
We just talked about one.
Dennis Allen.
That's a good answer.
I mean, it really is. Like he, give him the general on that side of the ball, and I think that he's in much better shape. I think Jamal Williams is one. Like I think the system fits him a little bit better. We talked about him earlier. I think he's somebody. I think it benefits Derek Carr. I think it benefits Chris Olave. I think it benefits Rashid Shaheed, Alvin Kamara,
Kendrick Miller.
Yeah, anybody on the offensive
Juwan
line.
Johnson.
I think
Foster
just
Moreau.
I think starting from zero. Like, look, you have the Peyton offense. Take Peyton out. Like, didn't work. It didn't work as well as it should have. But I also think just giving everybody, there's nobody really left with ties to the previous offense, very loosely, just tail end of it. I think just kind of starting over from, zero, everybody's coming in the same, and start building up something new on top of it. I think it was time for that, instead of trying to renovate the same old house over and over and over. Like, sometimes it's okay to just tear it down and start building something new. And I think, just building something new with no memories in it, and there's no shorthand you're trying to catch up on, or, this thing, and, this worked forever and now it doesn't. Well, it worked because, like, everybody just had, like, these mental checks and things. And I think it was just time. So I would say everybody's benefit.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's no question. That's a cheap answer. I mean, Taysom Hill would have been a cheap answer too, but I actually think, funny enough, I think Pete Carmichael, that's one of the things he did a better job than when Sean Payton was here, was some of their usage of Taysom Hill. I just don't think they did it consistently well enough. There's not a player on this offense that we can't say that we thought they underachieved or should have been used a little more creatively or better. But I will keep my answer, if I have to pick one, to the running backs, because, I mean, their run game was awful, and I think this system, I think the way they're implementing it, I think their plan for it is going to improve the run game greatly. Of course, Jamal Williams, he was so low last year. I think Henry Miller is the style of runner who could really thrive in this offense. I think they'll figure out ways to get Alvin into the second level of the offense. So I think that trio of guys are three guys that should all benefit the very most from this system.
You know what? I'm going to tack something on to that. Tight ends. I was talking to Jacobson
Talk about
today.
guys who underachieved last year.
Yeah, I was talking to Jacobson today, and he was really telling me how, Klint is just putting everything in there that's brand new, and he's just excited to learn about it. But he also has the added benefit of being able to watch George Kittle tape, be able to see how effective I'm not saying that George Kittle and Jacobson are the same person, but how effective a tight end could be in this system. That system has gotten them to the Super Bowl. So I think that is an added benefit that comes along with being in the Kubiak system. And I think the tight ends, all of them, from Jawan Johnson down to Holker, like, can benefit from being in that Kubiak system.
Listen to this. I'm looking it up while you're talking. 21, Kubiak was in Minnesota, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Conklin's numbers in 21. Tyler Conklin.
Yeah.
Not a special tight end, not George Kittle. Tyler Conklin had, when they had Jefferson and Thielen there, he had 61 catches for 593 yards. It's like, those numbers would blow our minds if a tight end caught 61 passes for 593 yards. And that wasn't even George Kittle we're talking about there.
Not hyping, but might be the missing piece. I really think Kubiak might be the missing piece that, like Nick said earlier, you don't want to get too high, but I think this is going to be a better team than it was last year, honestly speaking. Well, that'll do it for this episode of NewOrleans.Football. We appreciate y'all for tapping in on the live show. If you're not, what are you doing? Make sure you're signed up to NewOrleans.Football, because you got exclusive access to the top-notch stories like we put out today, detailing every minute of practice. And going into minicamp, you'll be able to see who we think will make the roster and different things like that. Overtime is next. Catch you next time.
Scan that QR code.